to, yes, another great chapter in Ahavas Chesed, where we haven't talked enough about Chesed. And the Chesed really is the fact that a lot of these topics about Chesed, the Chesed is that we've been provided all of this understanding of Chesed. So we're continuing in last week's discussion about the performance of Chesed, and we, as he says over here, we haven't really we haven't really paved the path or cleared the path of of all stones. It's not a perfectly flat path to doing Chesed on a regular basis, because he talks about some of the personal issues that one may have, the inclinations that one may have that would prevent them from doing this. So why should I be the first thing he's going to deal with in this chapter is, why should I be the most righteous person in the world, the most saintly, for more so than anybody else? Right? You have so and so, you have so and so. They're very rich, and they have nothing to worry about. They can do all the tzedakah. They can do all the chesed, and let those guys, the rich guys, handle all of that. And this is actually a modern problem that we experience nowadays. I'll do what I can when I can, and I'll say what I have to say. So this the Ahavas Chaim replies the following. So, if two people came to you, and they told you, you could buy a certain plot, okay, and they would promise you up and down the following, that when you get this, you're going to get some really great benefits are going to come from this purchase. And they tell everybody about your purchase of this property, and and people who are really, what we call them here in this area, wonks, who are in the know about property and purchasing, and that they know that you're making a good approach, and not one stone will be left unturned. He says over here. He says not one rock will fall to the ground, and so everyone will be all up in this purchase. Okay, forever and ever, you will be praised for this endeavor. Okay, for this investment. So a person couldn't hold themselves back fast enough to run to get into this project, even though it's so expensive. It's probably more than you can afford. Okay, and you wouldn't even worry about it, because you know that by somehow finding the money to get into this endeavor, it's going to be so popular. It's going to make you so popular amongst all the wealthy people. Why not put that same type of attitude and that investment, that personal investment, into doing chesed? Why not focus all of that investment and time into what Hashem has commanded you to do? And you can get even more well-liked and respected in God's eyes, more so than anybody else. This is how my brethren in this thing, that the business of searching for kindness to do to others, it should be done with full effort. Okay, that you should see like these two people who come to you, and they're going to tell the whole world, in their great wisdom, about how great Chesed is. And who are those great people who will come to you and tell how great Chesed is? So you have Avraham Avinu and Shlomo Melech. They undertook tremendous endeavors to do Chesed for others. He says, the Ahavas Chaim says. They used to chase after opportunities to do tzedakah and Chesed. And so we see how amazing their reward was, and how they left a lasting impression on other people. So the first thing is that Abraham went through a tremendous effort to do kindness to everyone. And whether it was to teach people about the oneness and unity of Hashem, whether it was to feed them and to give them a place to stay for the evening, and to honor them and to be humble before them. And he invested in that personality trait of kindness, of good kindness. And he commanded his children after him, which Hashem says that's what he was supposed to do. And those children, they became successful as well. And all the brachas that God promised to give to him came true through the giving of the land of Israel to their great 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 grandchildren. And what about Shlomo Melech? So King Solomon, it says the following: one who chases tzedakah will find tzedakah for himself. He'll also find life, and he'll find honor. Okay. So if you're only going to do this once in a while, that's not considered chasing chesed. Chasing chesed means you invest in it regularly, because the Holy One, blessed be He, who is the one who's the biggest investor, okay, and the one who is most superior to everybody else that we're talking about. He agrees that this is a good venture to invest in chesed. Okay, as it says that Hashem refused to hide anything from Abraham when it came to the matter of Sodom. So in order that he become a good person and continue to teach his children after him to do chesed, I need to tell him about this behavior in Sodom that needs to not be memorialized, needs to not be remembered, which is the running away from or the evasion of doing chesed. Sodom was the opposite. They hated doing chesed. They didn't want you to come to their town. They didn't want to have to be put out of their way to go do chesed. Okay, so the idea is that that's what we're focusing on in terms of doing gemilos chasadim, doing these acts of charity or acts of loving kindness, because the kindness and the charity themselves is one way in which one looks outside of their own self. And how else can you teach a person to be concerned about others if they don't start doing that, which is look outside of themselves? And also the pasuk itself reveals to us the following: that someone who is looking to get in this chesed business, to do good to others, and to cause others to inherit the merit of doing these good deeds, and this merit extends for many, many generations, because it says that Hashem extends the kindness that one does through many later generations, that Hashem remembers all that kindness and extends it to your family. And that is based on someone who is staunch in their acts of kindness. And it says it's not like some of the people where you buy something and kind of like sits there, or it just sits. It's just like an investment, just like real property. It just sits. It just waits for the right time. Here's something you have to actually constantly go over and review on a regular basis, all throughout your life. And that's why it stays for you even after your life is over, because chesed is something that just continues to accrue interest. And he doesn't say that, but it continues to accrue value for you. And so he says further, the Ahavas Chaim, look what it says in Maseches Kala. So it says that there's a story about Rabbi Tarfon. He was very rich, and he didn't give gifts to the poor. Okay? So, meaning he wasn't giving as much as he possibly could have. So there's an expectation. So Rabbi Kiva found him and says, Rebbe, my master, so, do you want me to go buy a city for you, or 2 cities? So Rabbi Tarfon goes, sure. So Rabbi Tarfon went and gave him 4,000 golden dinar. And Rabbi Kiva went and gave him to the poor. So afterwards, Rabbi Tarfon comes back and he goes, no, where's the cities you bought from me with all that money? So he grabs Rabbi Kiva and he brings him to the base measures. He's basically taking him for judgment. And so Rabbi Kiva goes and grabs a Sefer Tehillim and leaves it from Rabbi Tarfon. And they're reading until they get to the 112th parak, where it says, Hazer nasan la'evyonim, sid kaso al medislaad. One who spreads out his money to so many poor people, his charity stands for eternity. Rabbi Tarfon says, so where's my city? Rabbi Kiva says, this is your city. We built this city on tzedakah. That's not what it actually says. I'm taking a little bit of the translation. And so Rabbi Tarfon went and kissed him. He said to him, my master, my teacher, my guide. Right? You're a master in wisdom, and you're my guide in how to do things properly. And he even gave him more money to give to the poor. And Rabbi Kiva, he wasn't lying to Rabbi Tarfon. He was simply doing something in his best interest. And that this what he was accruing for him was not tangible financial assets. He was giving him spiritual assets. So even though he called it a city, it was meant to make him. It was meant to make him think of a city itself. What's interesting is that the Ahavas Chaim over here says it's a city where the angels live. I would say that the other way you can understand it is that in the pasuk that says that there is in Koheles it says that there's once a wise man who through his wisdom saved the city. The city is supposed to be the body. So I would say that Rabbi Kiva was telling him it was the city, was referencing this idea that he was saving Rabbi Tarfon personally his own personal interests by giving out this tzedakah. He should have been giving more. And so the honor that comes to a person to doing all this charity is an eternal charity, is an eternal reward. Okay, and that's why it says that in that same kapitel, in that same chapter of Tehillim, Kuf Yud Beis, it says that Sid Kaso Omedes La'ad, that your charity stands for you forever, and it also makes you honorable. And Rabbi Tarfon, knowing all this, was therefore not angry. He understood all the good things that Rabbi Kiva was doing for him, and he recognizes his own failures and how Rabbi Kiva showed him that. And so that's something you should do. Now, I would add that this doesn't mean that you should go ahead and ask somebody for $5,000, then go ahead and just spend the money without their permission. This is not meant to teach you to do that. It's meant to teach you the value of it. But don't go ahead and ask somebody for money and then spread it, because they probably would have. I'm fairly certain that if you're not clear about your intentions, that they could have some pretty strong words with you. So that other question is, how does your evil inclination incline you away from this? So that way they want you to seize up more money and to keep more money that you should give it to your children later on after your passing. And that is really a worthless statement. So the argument is basically saying, I only love my kids because I accrue money now to leave to them later. So I have to be cruel to myself for them, for their sake. So I should take some pity on myself and not have to feel like I have to accrue so much money. So if someone were to accuse a person of treason against the king in this case, and the punishment would be that there's going to be some terrible physical and corporal punishments for being treasonous. Things like, I'm going to take your money away, or I'm going to throw you on top of hot ash or hot coals. That a person would realize that they'd rather face death than face some of these penalties, and they wouldn't even part with their money. Forget about wanting to have to get the physical pain of having something burning them. And so a person would spend all kinds of money to save themselves from this calamity. So why would you not do the same thing when it comes to chesed and tzedakah? That if you're looking to demonstrate to the world and to Hashem that you're a good person, you should be spending and investing a certain amount of money to show that you're a good person. And if a person were to tell you, no, don't put so much in tzedakah, put this money away for your retirement. So basically, there is a sense of what you can use to put away for retirement and what you should be using for tzedakah. But nothing, how much money you accrue in your life doesn't stand for value when you've already passed on. Does it help you in the world to come? Excuse me, I was not yawning so many times. It doesn't help you accrue any more value in the world to come when you are experiencing a judgment in the afterlife. So it's not like a person can pay off anything that they're owed in the next world. That's not how it works. A person has to do what's righteous, and the righteousness stands in their deference, but not money and so on. And so a person is trying to save themselves from the judgment of Gehinnom, of the burning of Gehinnom. So a person would want to do that, save themselves from it, but they can't use money to do that. Really, they have to. You want to save yourself from the fury of the fire, that a person should lift themselves up from it by doing more mitzvahs. That lifts you up and moves you away from the punishment that's held in Gehinnom. Okay, he said we learned in another place in the Talmud. So we see that in the case of Mar Ukva, where he did lots of tzedakah, okay, when he was dying, he said the following. So he said he would go on a journey, a faraway journey, and he would take very little food with him, just what he needed for his survival. And the rest of the money that he saved on the trip, he would distribute to charity. So the rabbi said, put a limit on that. A person who does that shouldn't do more than 20% of their value. Yoser mechomesh, right? Okay? And that's as long as you're alive. But once you pass away, feel free to distribute your money to however you want to do it. Recently, somebody passed away, left $1 billion to the medical school at Yeshiva University. $1 billion. You know, who would have thunk it? That the guy had $1 billion he was sitting on. So now people who go for general practice and want to go into general medicine, they don't have to have. They don't have to have loans to pay for that education. It's going to be satisfied by this new endowment set up by this guy after he passed away. And the contribution he's made to the scores of young Jewish people and to many people who need medical care, this investment will stand for a long, long time. So therefore, a person should take what you need for yourself, and then really focus on what everybody else needs. Because of course, your life comes first. But don't think that you have to just keep it around and give every single penny to your children. You need to look and see what you need, and then how you could benefit somebody else, including your children, because tzedakah does start with them as well. Okay, and a person should not look to aggrandize themselves with their wealth. So a person, what they should do is, when it comes time to make a decision with their finances as they approach their deathbed, the person who fears Hashem should focus on giving lots of money to those who really truly need it, including a certain amount that he'd leave to his own children. Okay, so in order that the children should have a little bit of satisfaction from the accomplishments of their father, and also know that this is a real Jewish value, is to not keep all the money for just in the family and expect the children to do that. You have to show them how important the mitzvah is. So you lead by example. And let's say Hashem really blesses you with a significant amount of wealth, and you don't really have time because of how successful you are to do a lot of chesed. Okay? You are allowed to go ahead and appoint somebody else to do it for you. Now, it's better that you do it, he says. But if you have, even like if you have too many people to manage all your businesses, you hire some middlemen or managers. You should do that also with your chesed. Because each one of these things is a separate business for you. And we just said that a person who throughout the day when he needs something done in business, he'll hire someone in the middle or hire a manager. And so someone should treat chesed like a business and look at investing it for their own benefit. And the accrued interest is for your station in the world to come. The person shouldn't see it as not something of value to be done, but rather they should see it as something important to be done, to go ahead and invest time in doing chesed for others. And he's going to explain a little bit about what type of person should really look to do this. So you don't only do a person who's super organized like this, but every type of person should look like that. And they should try to make time, just like one makes time to learn Torah, you should make time to do chesed. And also take some money out to go ahead and accomplish the chesed. A little bit at a time. Okay? And so for every little bit, your 10 or 20 rubles he's talking about over here that you set aside for this, you'll be able to go ahead and complete certain amounts of gemilos chasadim, even small amounts, such as giving a small loan or giving charity to the super poor. Okay, and so you should really focus on what you can accomplish, as long as your intentions are noble and you have an intent to have it, towards have it. What's also really good, he adds, if the entire Jewish nation would think of it this way, that everyone would be super motivated and zealous to do this mitzvah. And then through that, the whole world would be full of kindness, full of chesed. And then all these other issues about, oh, no, I really can't do this, I really can't do that, no one would think about it. And that's why he said, the Ahavas Chaim says that in the Midrash, it says that when the Jewish people were in Egypt, they all gathered together and they made a covenant to do chesed one to the other. So why did they do that? Because they thought about when somebody gets wealthy, they want someone to go ahead and contribute. But even furthermore, whether you're wealthy or not so wealthy, you're going to look at everybody's needs and what you can accomplish and how you can best look to focus your chesed opportunities. And that's a midah, that's an attribute of chesed that is praiseworthy. And that's why it's always stayed with the Jewish people for centuries, because it was necessary to focus the energy of chesed into the entire community, as opposed to just being a singular mitzvah that some people were strict on, other people were lenient on because they didn't feel it was a big deal to do chesed. They should think it's a really big deal to do it. Okay, and so therefore Hashem should look down at us and be constantly present to let us learn from His Torah about how important this personality trait should be, and how through it you can move up a notch in one's mitzvah performance. That's the end of chapter 14. In Hashem, next time, we're going to talk about the comparisons of doing this chesed and how it feels like a sacrifice in the temple. Okay, especially when you extend a loan through what's known as a heter isko. We'll talk a little about what that means, about how you can get interest, but not interest on the money. Thank you for coming out. Have a wonderful day.